Thank you all for coming to ChatGPT for small business owners. This is put on by the Spark of Hudson. So the Spark of Hudson is a dynamic community organization and educational hub that's aiming to serve as a catalyst for positive change. We focus on empowerment and innovation and collaboration within this community. The Spark is also particularly supportive of entrepreneurs in the local community. So keep an eye on our website for other events that are targeted towards people like yourselves. Just an intro to who I am. My name is Caitie Hilverman. I am Hudson born and raised, moved away for a while, and then moved back to Hudson about 5 years ago. I have a PhD in cognitive psychology, and for the last 5 years, have been working in mental health tech as a data scientist, and then the head of a data science division, where I was working with language models like ChatGPT pretty routinely, thinking about their ethical use and in general, just sort of entrenched in that world. And now I work at the Spark of Hudson as of a couple of weeks ago. I'm really excited. It's sort of the intersection of all of the things that I like and am excited about. And so it's all very new and very cool and exciting. I'm happy that I get to be here presenting this to you. I want this to be really informal. So yeah, feel free to hop in as you have questions. Just come off mute or you can put them in the chat. Sometimes I miss things in the chat. So feel free to sort of let me know if I've done that. It's hard when you're sharing screens to see it all. So I also want to sort of give a disclaimer before we get started about ChatGPT. Right now, it's a pretty controversial topic, right? Like it's potentially taking people's jobs. It's potentially some have called it a threat to humanity. There are a lot of things about ChatGPT that sound scary or are have the potential for misuse. I do not think that means that we shouldn't use it. I think actually that's all the more reason to understand it. And I think especially as small business owners or people who are trying to start a small business, it can be a real equalizer in some ways. It's like a consultant at your fingertips, as we'll see a little bit later. I also want to say I'm a small business owner myself. So I just started a business about 6 weeks ago called Homecrafted. And I'll talk about that more later. But I used ChatGPT quite heavily throughout the process of getting it set up and now still use it daily in my sort of day-to-day business tasks. So yeah, that is what motivated me wanting to do this particular workshop. All right. So quick overview. Well, what we'll talk about today: what is ChatGPT? How does it work? What are some use cases? What are some limitations, ethical considerations? How can you use it in your small business? And then I'll do a live workshop where I'll sort of show you the power of how you can use it immediately. All right, so what is it? Better to ask than ChatGPT itself. Here I ask it. This is actually a screenshot of me interacting with it. This is what is ChatGPT in 3 simple bullets. It responds back instantaneously. It says it's an AI-powered language model developed by OpenAI. So this is a proprietary model owned by one company. It can understand and generate human-like text responses in real-time conversations, as you can see here. And it is trained on a large amount of diverse text data and can assist with a wide range of inquiries and tasks. Here to sort of show you how it is sensitive to prompts. Here's what is ChatGPT explained to a small business owner in 100 words or less. So it's an AI chatbot that can have interactive conversation with people. It understands and responds to text-based messages, helping you automate customer support, handle inquiries, personalize interactions, generate content, and make data-driven decisions. It can save time, improve customer satisfaction, and scale your business operations by providing human-like conversational capabilities. I'll go into all of this later, but here what you can see, it can change the way that it's speaking based on the prompt that you give it. It's been trained on a lot of text data, and that allows it to do that.
Katie, did you mean to share your screen? We're not seeing visual.
Oh, thank you for saying that.
Sure.
Yes. Hold on one second.
No problem.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Do-do-do-do. Yeah, that would have been a lot more exciting with something in front of you. Um, everything is, there we go. All right, there's 3 simple bullets. Okay, so we will get into all of these capabilities later in this workshop. Um, yeah, but first a bit on how it works. So to understand how it works, we need to know what it was trained on. This will be a review if you were here last time. But it was trained on diverse text data from the internet. So basically, OpenAI sourced an incredible amount of text data and used it to train this language model. This included sources like books, articles, websites, and more. They actually got into some trouble because people said that they used their data without their consent. We do not know all of the data that it was trained on, and they haven't disclosed that fully. It does have a knowledge cutoff, so it was trained on data up to September 2021. So anything that's happened after that, it doesn't know about it and hasn't integrated that information with its knowledge base. That is changing. They will integrate data from then, from that point and on. They're getting feedback with its use right now, its live use on their website. But the models that you yourself can interact with are all will all have that knowledge cutoff. This variability in training data is what allows it to be so conversational and sound so human-like. This model was trained to predict the next word in a sentence. And so giving it lots of diverse sources of training data will allow it to have really robust learning. And it does, as you'll see, sound quite similar to human beings. All right, so some examples of how it can be used. So it can enable natural conversation. So here I say to it, I'm worried that if I start a business, it'll fail. It responds like a human would. This is a normal response to have concerns. Many people have similar worries. This is why it's often used sort of as a friend or a therapist. It gets into that sort of territory because it sounds like you're speaking to a human being. It can also serve as a knowledge resource. So here I ask it about all the different types of point of sale software options, right? So and it will bring them all up, all of the knowledge that it has up until 2021 and list it all out for you. It can provide personal assistance. So here I'm asking it to write a week-long social media post strategy for my business. And it says, certainly, even without any context here, it says, here's for this next 7 days, here's the post that you should make. This can be really helpful. Can facilitate communication across languages. So here I ask it how to say welcome to our new store in Italian. Be very useful for that. It can create writing prompts and support writing. So it can do things like write blog posts. So here I ask it to write a 100-word description of a furniture store called Pining for You that only builds with pine. And it doesn't ask for any more information. It just runs with it, right? Your ultimate destination for exquisite furniture crafted exclusively from pine wood. So it's been trained on so many data sources that you can give it very minimal information and it can fill in the gaps for you. This can be a really useful tool. It could also be, it's also a reason to look very closely at the content that it generates. It's scalable and can be used to automate tasks. So an example would be if you wanted a chatbot for your website. ChatGPT would be something that you could use that would allow you to talk to many customers all at once, and like taking that pressure away from you, especially as a small business owner who might not have an entire customer support team all ramped up. But like anything, it has limitations and challenges. So it lacks relevant context. So if you ask it what the weather is like today, it might give you a response that sounds plausible, like it's raining cats and dogs, don't forget your umbrella. but it doesn't actually have that information. It doesn't have, up-to-date information on the world, yet it might respond like it does. It's also really sensitive to input phrasing. We saw that a little bit in the beginning of this. So if you ask it what the symptoms of a cold are, it might give you a different answer than when you ask what the signs of a cold are. That's something that we might not distinguish within ourselves, but based on its training, it has slight variability that is present that you can probe with prompts. It also does not clarify ambiguity. So if you ask it a question like that is too general, like how much does it cost to travel, it will respond and then not ask for more information. It's not conversational in that way. It will just give you an answer based on the information that it has. It also tends to be overconfident. So this was the example we talked through last week. What is the capital of Australia? It might say confidently that it's Sydney, and that's incorrect, right? But it says it as though it is correct. Now, if you're in a conversation with it and you say, hey, it's actually not Sydney, it will likely say, my apologies, you're right, it's actually Canberra. But there are these little blips. That is true of any language model, any machine learning model in general. It will sometimes fail, and it does that as well, but it failed quite confidently. It also can be biased or inappropriate. So this example, why do some people oppose vaccination? It might respond by saying they believe in unfounded conspiracy theories and misinformation. This has clear bias in it, right? So it's trained on data generated by humans. Humans have biases, and so it reflects those biases from time to time. And like we said earlier, it can't provide real-time updates. So it won't be able to tell you about anything that's happened since the knowledge cutoff in September 2021. So what are some ethical considerations as it relates to use in small business? So it can generate misinformation. This is something that's useful both if you're having it create content for your website or if you're having ChatGPT as a chatbot, right? So it can disseminate, it can create false content and might do it without you being aware. So if you have it write a blog post, for example, for your website, you'll want to read it really closely in case it's incorporated anything that it's been trained on that may not be true. You don't want to present that information to the world without having read it closely. It can also perpetuate existing biases. So the example here, like if you ask it, what are the top 10 best philosophers of all time, it might only return people from a particular cultural background, right? That's a bias that we have in our society. It shows up in ChatGPT as well. Thinking of this concretely in business use, this could, like in a situation where you have a lot of customers on your website engaging with your chatbot that is ChatGPT powered, it's possible that these biases will come up in the back and forth conversation. So it's something to be aware of. It's something that you can fine tune, but it still always will be a risk, at least as these models exist right now. And then it also has privacy and security risks. So OpenAI has all of this data. We don't know with certainty how they're encrypting it and whether they're doing it well. We are just trusting that they are doing this in a way that is appropriate and works well. And as such, we should not share anything private with it. Again, in a chatbot scenario on your website, your customers may not know that, right? And so they may be providing sensitive information to the chatbot that you as a business owner have no ability to have control over. So that's just something to be aware of. Never give it any private information about yourself without being aware of all of the risks of that. And yeah, it's already not being used responsibly consistently. So it can be used for malicious purposes, to generate hate speech, or to like pretend to be like to impersonate someone, or persuade people of a particular way of thinking. And so that's just something to be aware of as you start to use it more often. And another highly relevant one for chatbots on a website is that the end user, since ChatGPT is so human-like in its conversation, the end user may not know that they're talking to a bot. And that gets into sort of an ethical gray area where a person may disclose more than they otherwise would, or it may make them feel rapport that they then feel hurt by when they find out that they were in fact engaging with a language model. It's just something to be mindful of, and you can get around this problem entirely by making sure people are aware that they're speaking to a chatbot from the get-go. All right, so how can you use ChatGPT for your small business? Okay, so one possibility is it can be used for customer support. So it can handle basic customer inquiries and provide 24/7 availability. So as people come to your website, they can immediately engage with a chatbot. You've probably seen this as you've navigated the web yourself. This will also reduce the load on your customer support team if you have one, and they can resolve common issues to provide instant responses to customer satisfaction. In order to set this up yourself, this is an integration thing that you'd need for your website. So you choose a platform, or you could, if you're tech savvy or are hiring someone, could develop a custom integration using the OpenAI API. And then you would determine the scope of the customer support you wanted the chatbot to be able to handle. So do you just want them to schedule things, or just want them to welcome people and get their information? And then you could train it. You can fine tune it with relevant information and responses, so you are able to have some control over what the chatbot can say and can't. And then you would integrate it into your website or preferred platform. I see a hand. Annalisa.
Yeah, hi. When you use ChatGPT for that purpose, though, so it's on your website, you have certain answers you want it to give. So in that case, are you pre-programming the answers? You're actually not using it in an open-ended way, are you? You're
Right.
just using the tool of it, going out and reading your own database of data you've provided, and basically you're scripting at least when I use chatbots, it feels like the answer is completely scripted and they already know where they're going to send me.
Yep, exactly. So you can constrain. So ChatGPT and those like it are essentially like the top tier platinum chatbot. The only reason to use ChatGPT compared to like other integrations out there would be to really ramp up that feeling of like naturalistic conversation. Yes, so you can absolutely like most of the chatbots that we're interacting with are rule-based. So they're not machine learning powered. It might identify, like there could be like 20 possible trigger words, right? Like appointment, schedule, something that will then get you to a particular menu.
Okay,
so
it can be more conversational. I understand.
Yeah. But yeah, it can be more conversational, and you can fine tune it. Yeah, you can train it just to say the things that you wanted to say or the topics you want to talk about. It just,
But if you did that, you would, you can train it to do that. Okay, so you'd use it for the conversational aspects. Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. No, that's a great question. Yeah, and if you did deploy something like this on your website, you could continuously monitor it and review its responses to improve the accuracy and effectiveness. You know, if it's constantly failing at recognizing that people, don't want the particular product that it's recommending, you could then tinker with it yourself. A lot of these third-party integrations will make this really user-friendly. Yeah, or if you have a sort of programming background, you can do it yourself. Yeah. Customer support. All right. It can also be used for lead generation. So this is engaging with website visitors as soon as they get to your landing page, asking them for information, and then you have that information to continue to get back in touch with them. So this is something that you see often when you go to a website. A little pop-up comes up and asks for your email address. It's akin to that, but like with an actual chatbot. Then you qualify these leads based on predefined criteria for follow-up, capture customer preferences to personalize interactions and drive conversations. So that's something that ChatGPT is really good at, is that feeling of building rapport. Oh, you like this? That sounds great. What about these? That type of human-like aspect of interaction can feel really good to people. In order to do this concretely in your business, this again would require a third-party app or a way for you to integrate this on your website. You would define your lead qualification criteria and then set up lead capture forms or chatbot interactions that would collect this customer information and then integrate that information with like whatever lead management system you might use, or just, if you're a small business owner like me, just write it down yourself in a spreadsheet and then develop a follow-up strategy based on this information that you're collecting. It can also be used for appointment scheduling. This is the same sort of thing. There's many tools out there where you can, you can have a chatbot or use an AI-powered tool to develop a solution to help people schedule things when they come to your website. So you would set up your availability, define parameters for appointment scheduling, then integrate the scheduling tool with your chatbot platform. So it feels very seamless, customer servicey. And then it can also be used for content generation. So you can create your blog, social medias, email newsletters. This is the stuff I'll go into in a bit more detail in the live workshop. You can also receive suggestions and assistance in creating and engaging relevant content, make a consistent brand voice, and save time in the creation of content. This is the thing that I use it for the most in my small business, and we'll sort of walk through this in more detail in a couple of minutes. And then it can also be used for product recommendations. So you can analyze customer preferences and purchase history using ChatGPT. You can provide personalized product recommendations to increase sales and enhance the customer experience by offering suggestions for their needs. You can do this with or without a chatbot component. So you collect customer data and preferences through interactions with a chatbot or through just purchase history. You can actually paste this data right into ChatGPT and ask for insights. And then sort of continuously refine your product base based on the information that you're receiving. So, all right, so all of these options that I've shared, for the most part, rely on an integration, like a third-party integration, or actually seeking out a solution to integrate with your website. But what I have actually used it most for is day-to-day operations and planning for my small business. And so that's what I want to do now, sort of show you how it can be used, like starting today. I think it can be really powerful and fun. So I will bring it up. So if you are not on ChatGPT yet, this is how you get on: chat.openai.com. Let me just move some windows around. Actually, I'm going to stop sharing for just a second so I can reconfigure. Right. All right. Broccoli, lots of broccoli recommendations. All right, so chat.openai.com. I already have a subscription to ChatGPT. So there are two versions. There's a free version and a paid version. I have the paid version that I bought solely to do these workshops. Prior to now, I wasn't using the plus version. It's $20 a month, and the perks are that number one, the server will always be available. That's why I got it. Sometimes on the free version, it will say the servers are overloaded and you have to wait for its use. And I didn't want that to happen live in front of you all. Then you also have access to GPT-4, which is their most capable but much slower model. This is limited in its use for how many requests you can make in a day. So we'll be using this version, which is GPT 3.5. That is very fast, as you'll see. Over here are all of the chats that I have going. I'm like, I should probably change the names of those before I go, so I'm not showing who I am in such great detail. But this is, who I am in a nutshell. Picky eating children, cemetery, spooky, recurrent strep throat. There you go. That's me. And so how to get started is you'll come over here, select new chat, and this is what you'll just engage with it in this way. So let's see, I've got a prompt here somewhere. There it is, just to get us started. So this is essentially how I used ChatGPT to start my own business. So I'm thinking of starting a business where I sell handcrafted goods on consignment. I want it to all be goods made by local makers. I want it to only be home goods initially. I also want to have the people who make the goods teach others how to make them. Enter. Right, this is a very supportive partner in this. This sounds like a wonderful business idea. Starting a consignment business, focus on handmade goods, et cetera, et cetera. And then it gives me a step-by-step guide to help me get started, right? So what this does for me as a small business owner is gets me thinking about all of the things that I need to do in order to get this business off the ground. This is very helpful for someone who has never started a business before. So then what we might say is, give me 10 possible names for this business. Okay, so this is a list prompt. So it's taken the information that I've given it, and it gives me 10 possible names for it that are all based on the content that I've provided about the business I'm going to start. This is how this works within a conversation is ChatGPT builds context over time. So it has memory for the things that you've put within that chat. Now, if I started a new chat, it would not continue this conversation. But each of these chats, why I keep them is because it has, these are chats that I often come back to with other sort of questions or concerns, and it will have saved the content from that chat, no matter how long it's been. All right, so you can tweak it a little bit. So this business will be in Hudson, New York. Can you integrate the whale, the symbol of Hudson, into the name? Handcrafted whalecraft. I loved it. Crafting with whales, whale and home. The Whaler's Workshop. I like that. Let's go with the Whaler's Workshop. Right, so now we'll remember from here on out that this is the name of the business that I'm starting, right? All right. Should my business be an LLC or an SP? It can then give you information about the different types of business structures. Right. So it will explain them. It gave pros and cons completely unprompted. Super helpful. Now, as we talked about earlier, you don't know that all of this information is correct all of the time. So, back up this information, do your own research outside of ChatGPT, especially if you're using it to actually make decisions that you're going to move forward with. But for the most part, it can be really helpful in getting a high level sort of general understanding about, especially common concepts like business types. I didn't talk about this, so you can also, if you don't like an answer, you can just press regenerate response and it will do it again. It will try again. It will ask you for feedback. This feedback will be used to further train the model. That's why they're asking. Actually, you can do this with every response it gives. You can give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down or copy it. So yeah, it can be a great information source. It can also, do things like generate a business plan or a whalers workshop. Right. And so if it does this now, it hasn't given me, I haven't given it much information about what kind of business it will be, right? But it will use, a template, and it will use all the information that it's given me. Oh, here, it's actually not writing me the business plan. It's telling me how I should write it because it doesn't have the relevant information likely. And so then you can ask it, can you write it for me? It's in Hudson, New York. It's run by Jane Doe, who has a PhD in cognitive psychology. It will carry home goods. It will have 10 classes per month, all focused on making goods by hand, right? And then you can see if you can actually get it, to write you one. And I wouldn't then copy and paste this and use this, right? But what this will do for you is sort of get you started, right? Like get you thinking about the things that you should be thinking about. As you read this, you'll know what feels really wrong and what is on the nose, right? Like, so right now it's sort of stalling out, which happens sometimes. You can give it a couple seconds to keep trying, or you can always press stop generating. Yeah, so you can use it to actually generate, information that like generate documents that you can use out in the world as you're trying to get your business started. All right, so another aspect of this business that would be important to know about is consignment, right? So like, what are some possible consignment setups, consignment contracts, right? And now it will tell you these are the options that exist out there. Ooh, you're getting ChatGPT breakdown. Let's see. Yeah, so it does, like, even with the plus version, the service can still get overloaded and it can crash, but it saved the chat, right? So we come back over here.
Do you think it's you typed in some incorrectly? You put SOEM instead of SOME. Do you think it matters? Or is like Google autocorrect? That was like a basic.
Yeah, I usually it doesn't matter because this is typically how I type. It's just riddled with typos.
It's just clock Eastern Standard Time then.
Yeah. 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 So other things that we can use it for. Can you generate a sample consignment contract? So this is something that I actually did for my business. The version that I actually use for Homecrafted is something that was generated by ChatGPT, but then looked over by an attorney, right? So again, would always really sort of strongly recommend that you check its work and that you don't just trust that what it's generated is the right thing, but it can be very useful in thinking through how you want things to work. All right. It can also be useful for social media strategies. So can you make me a 1 month plan for posting on Instagram for my business? So it can give you sort of a schedule. And of how you can handle this. So the first week you're going to make these 3 posts, and it even will tell you the different photos that you should take. You can probe it to say, like, tell me what photo and what caption I should have together. So can you write the captions for all the week 1 posts? Cool. So it doesn't have information about what these posts are going to be, but it gives you sort of 3 samples that sound very Instagram-y, right? It gives you the hashtags, and then you can say, can you rewrite these, but integrate more emoji? If you're a emoji lover. Right. And yeah, so you can have it sort of change minor things. And like over time, it will learn how you want the content to be presented, right? So if you say like this, like make it simpler, like it will just continue to iterate until you get to a point where you like it. Like it's actually remove the emoji, yeah. So this is another sort of interesting thing about ChatGPT is sometimes I feel like the more I try and get it to produce content that I want it to produce, like the less likely it is to do that, right? So if I'm like, give a quick overview of my business and I don't like it, and then I say like, integrate, like make it sound friendlier, then it'll sound like really over the top friendly, right? It will sort of pick up, it will use the information that you provide in the prompt and really like do an exaggerated version of it in some ways. All right. So let's see. Other things that we can do. It will also it can give recommendations for things that you don't see. So like, what are some possible logos? I'm going to use an acronym too to see how it does with that. See, now it's picked up on like, you use WW to mean Whalers Workshop. Incorporate a stylized whale silhouette as the centerpiece of the logo. Surround the whale with the text Whalers Workshop in a clean and modern font, right? So it's like giving you
images. It won't produce images.
No, ChatGPT won't produce images, but there are a lot of AI generated logo makers out there.
Well, I bet, I'm sure.
Yeah. And that is what, I mean, when people are afraid of it taking jobs, it certainly is, right? Like, especially with things like logo makers, you know, that was something that ordinarily, you know, historically you would go to people to do that.
Yeah.
And then that isn't entirely I mean, this isn't entirely AI, right? There's a lot of openly available logos out there, like open source logos, or logos that you can pay like $5 for, right? But you can also just generate them based on the information that you give it in text. So yeah, the concerns about it replacing jobs are absolutely valid. Yeah, and we'll sort of see how this goes over time. All right, some other, yeah, so I'm trying to think of what else what I use it for regularly. Planning social media posts.
Do you ever use it for SEO? You mentioned SEO marketing. That's kind of an interesting.
Yep. So
how would that look like? How would it do that?
Yeah. So let's see. Write a blog post introducing to the public for our website. So you might do something like this. Write a blog post. It gives you the whole blog post, a haven for lovers of handcrafted home goods in the heart of Hudson, New York. Wow. Okay, now rewrite it to maximize SEO. Okay. Incorporating what are improve search engine visibility and attract organic trafficking. Yeah, so to optimize blog posts for search engines, here are some targeted keywords that can be integrated into the content. Interesting, okay. I actually haven't used it for this purpose, but this makes a lot of sense. Incorporate these keywords naturally throughout the blog post, maintaining a conversational and informative tone. Cool. Yeah. Yeah. So, another thing that I used it for a lot, and like, yeah, feel free to jump in if you have questions or sort of areas you'd like to explore. But what are the goods I should carry? Inventory wise, riddled with typos. And see, it gives me all of the categories of all the different types of home goods that exist. So when I was paring this down for my own store, this is sort of where I started, like, okay, candles, like how many candle makers do we want? How many glassware people do we want? How do I find them locally? Yeah, it can be really helpful conceptually in getting you started. Can you help me make a budget? Right, and it will help you with this type of thing, like actually setting it up step by step. You can also paste your books directly into it. Again, I would wash out any information that you don't want, openly available. Like, and that's my assumption, is like there will be a data leak and someone will get access to ChatGPT data. Like, but you can paste financial data in even without like formatting it in any special way, and say, give me some insights about what happened in my May sales, right? So yeah, like I said earlier, I think this can be a real equalizer. I think when you're getting started and you don't know what you're doing, and you might not have the funds to hire a consultant or hire all of the different people that can get you started, this is a good way to sort of get an understanding of how to move forward, and then also start creating content to get you through sort of the day-to-day initially. Yeah. Another thing. So yeah, we didn't talk a ton about, we have talked about content generation, but like this is also really helpful in getting a website started, right? It can help you through each step and can give you specific examples of things that you could write, or will tell you the way that you can do it on Squarespace versus on other platforms. That was something that I found really helpful as I was getting my website set up.
So Caitie, you know how we said that some of the chatbots do images. Mm-hmm. Are there any that will spit out a spreadsheet of these expenses?
Ooh.
Wouldn't that be cool? If it's like, and now give me a spreadsheet that has all these X and Y axis spreadsheet.
Yeah, totally.
A budget spreadsheet. Give me a sample of my budget in a spreadsheet. Have you seen that?
Yeah, totally. ChatGPT can do that. Give me
it can?
Yeah.
No.
Give me a sample budget.
Yeah.
That I can paste directly into Excel.
Okay, so it doesn't give you the Excel.xls. Right, but it gives you the columns and the rows.
Yeah, it gives you the columns and the rows. Let's see. Can you do this as an XLS file? Apologies.
Okay.
As a text-based AI.
I'm going to generate. Yeah, I bet there's some working on it though. I bet there's some.
Totally. Yeah, that's like a very minor capability.
Like you can do images. You can spit out a .xls.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So I was using ChatGPT to do financial projections for my business, sort of month over month. Like, this is the revenue that I expect to earn from classes. This is the revenue that I expect to earn from retail. And I realized as I was doing it that it made a mathematical error, like a pretty significant one. And then I was like, oh, I'm never going to use it for this again. Right. And so that's a good example of me just putting a lot of trust in this language model when it will occasionally fail. So
yeah, you still have to think, don't you? Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's why it's not gonna, I don't know that it's gonna eliminate jobs. I think it's just gonna make them faster,
Yeah. I mean, what I would hope is that,
efficient.
yeah, yeah, it makes people more efficient. People can focus on using their creative brains in a way that I would argue machines will never be able to do. But um, but yeah, like I said, we'll sort of see how it pans out. Let's see. All right. Does anyone have any questions? We've got about 10 minutes left. That was all that I really intended to show. Let's see. There's... Cool. Oh, Blaine is late. All right. Well, thank you all for coming. So if you want more general information about AI, machine learning, you can check out last week's. This is part of a 5-week series. So we have 3 more coming up. They're every Thursday, except actually we skipped next Thursday. The 3 after that. And more generally, check out what the Spark has to offer. We have a lot of cool opportunities for everyone in the community. And like I said, especially entrepreneurs. So yeah, feel free to reach out and feel free to follow up. My email is in the chat. I love to talk about this. I love to talk about most things. So would love to.
I ask a question while I have you, but it's on topic, but different than what you were discussing.
Yes.
I had read somewhere that it would write Python code or write code.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I tried. I obviously didn't prompt it right, but I tried to get it to write some Python code. I said, I obviously did. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to do the prompt. Well, it came back with something like, I can't write code, but I think it can. So I didn't prompt it. They could, in another session, could we go over that?
Totally.
An example.
Yeah, and I can show you really briefly. Can you see my screen? I mess this up. Okay. Can you write me a script in Python to go through all the screenshots on my desktop and either decide to keep them or delete them? This is what I just had it do actually recently in Bash, though, not Python.
Holy cow. Okay.
Yeah. So this is why
really be specific, and of course you have to be specific. So it's really crafting the right thing to say is so key.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And so you can just copy this and paste it into an actual script and run it on your computer.
Okay, great. Okay, I have another question.
Sure.
I wanted it to read a public manual. It's called the FFIEC manual. It's a cybersecurity. It's the Fed guidelines for cybersecurity. It's public. It's on the Fed. And I said, will you read the FFIEC manual and tell me what they say about whatever, access management? And it said I can't read external files. So I sent it the link, and it said, I told you, Annalisa, I cannot read external files.
Yeah.
And I wrote, and I said, but it's public. Why can't you read it?
Yeah.
So what was up with that? What did I do wrong there? Why couldn't it do that?
You didn't do anything wrong. It probably was not trained on that data, right? So it's only using the information that it's been trained on.
But if I gave it the link to read the data, why couldn't it go read the link? I said, okay, great, I get it. You've never seen this before. Here it is.
Yeah. So it just doesn't work in that way. So you could paste it in, right? But there's a limit to how much you can paste in. It's just not being used in that way yet. But that's because of constraints imposed by OpenAI, not the language model. Yeah. Okay. So like I can paste in a whole, Wikipedia page, for example, and then say, give me a 2-line summary of this, and it will do it. But if it's too long, then I will have to, sometimes I've actually done that before. I've pasted things in chunks. If I'm looking for a piece of information and I don't want to read, everything.
Right. Yeah. And everything that you type into this becomes part of the public domain.
It doesn't become part of the public domain, but it's then OpenAI is saving it. And so,
Okay, yeah, right.
yeah, and I operate as though it's becoming public
Right.
because I'm nervous about them using the data in ways that are not appropriate or it getting hacked or leaked.
Yeah, of course. Okay.
Having worked in tech and seeing how it's everything is fallible, right? Like, yeah.
Okay, good. Thanks. Thank
Of
you
course.
for.
Of course. Any other questions? All right. Awesome. Well, I hope that this was useful. I hope you use it in your small businesses, and yeah, reach out if I can be helpful in any other ways about this topic. All right. Happy
Great.
Thursday.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.